start with a salute to our flag and nation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the meeting of May the 24th. Roll call.
Chairman Machado,
Here.
Commissioner Judd,
Here.
Scatini,
Here.
Minor,
Yeah.
Sanzari,
Here.
Martinez.
Here.
And I am here. And it's noted that Vice Chairman Houston is out.
Okay, verification of the agenda posting.
The agenda for the Airport Advisory Commission of the City of Hollister regular meeting of May 24, 2017 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on May 19th at 10 a.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. Number 5, consent. Approval of the minutes of the Airport Advisory Commission meeting of April the 26th. Are there any questions or corrections or entertain a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second?
A motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I'm not.
You abstained?
I'm abstaining.
All right, thank you.
I guess I didn't say aye. Sorry. Aye.
Can I call the roll? Yeah.
No, I'm just saying aye to the motion.
I thought everybody said
Favor.
aye.
No, I just,
Oh, okay.
carry on.
Everybody's a little closer, we'll reach you with that answer. Okay, public input. We have no public input?
We have no public.
No public.
We have no public. So that would create no input. Okay, reports. AIP Phase 1.
There was some correspondence from the contractor's legal counsel asking for some additional information, and our side is responding to that.
Any estimate when time? No. Okay, 7B, AIP 18 ALP update.
So the surveyors are out at the airport this week doing the surveying and the photogrammy. I can't say that word. Anyway, the aerial photograph for the ALP. Tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact, we're going to be escorting them up and down the main runway as they take readings early in the morning. It shouldn't affect traffic too much, and we'll get out of the way if we need to. But we're going to knock that out, and they'll be done this week. So that is progressing nicely.
You know, looking at A and B, it would be kind of nice to have it spelled out, AIP and ALP. I don't know on the
So you want airport improvement program spelled out and airport layout plan spelled out?
Yeah, if it was done
Okay.
just once. The only reason I say that is because we're on television, and I don't know if the general public understands AIP or ALP. Okay. Moving on to 7C, budget.
The budget will be presented with no changes for the airport to the City Council on June 1st at a special council meeting that starts, I believe, at 3 p.m. here. So the city manager recommended the budget as it was presented to you.
Mike, can I get a copy of that budget?
Absolutely. You want to pick it up?
Yeah, I'll pick it up
I'll have it waiting for you tomorrow.
tomorrow. Thank you, Mike.
Any questions on the budget?
Is that the first or the 19th? Because we had it in the minutes that it was the 19th. The adoption of...
The adoption of the budget the official adoption will be on the 19th. The
Okay.
study session is on the 1st.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And once again, the meeting on the 1st starts at 3 p.m. I don't know at what point, I could go at 11 o'clock at night. I don't know where in the lineup I'm going to be, but the meeting starts at 3. And all the budgets are going, so.
June the 1st.
Okay, any other questions on the budget? Okay, 7D, 4th of July.
The fireworks are ordered, the insurance policies have been signed, plans are in place, so we're ready to have some fireworks out at the airport. We're going to move them over near the tetrahedron this year, and so the crowd will have a little more air show type seating arrangement rather than be all crammed in one end. So letters to the tenants to move the gliders will be going out probably tomorrow, actually. They got to go out soon. So
who fires them?
Oh, we hire a company.
Our company does it?
Yeah, I believe it's Pyro Spectacular. You have to have a license.
Oh, sure. Anybody else? Anybody have a question? Okay, old business, trailer parking?
Just one,
Yes, ma'am.
if we don't have CAL FIRE there, then who will we covering in case of emergency?
Oh, well, CAL FIRE wouldn't respond to
okay.
fire at the airport anyway. But during the show, there is a fire truck
Okay.
there. And it's all dissed and, yeah.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
Can't burn down the new hangar.
Old business trailer parking.
Unfortunately, I was quite ill since our last meeting, so I have nothing to report on that.
8B, aircraft waste oil.
I do have a report on that. So I did determine, because I had to go to Watsonville and do some interviews, Watsonville is also going to stop collecting waste oil the first of the fiscal year when their contract runs out. The FBO will be providing that service to the tenants. But Watsonville is getting out of the aircraft oil collecting business. Salinas is still going to collect the oil, but they're putting in a very expensive security system because they're having contamination issues and other issues also.
How long have we had the previous storage facility?
9 years?
Okay,
Maybe 10, but I think it was 9.
I guess what I was getting at, what did we have before that?
Nothing. I know of. The only reason why I know that date is when I was still code enforcement, I got called out there because people were dumping the wrong thing in it. And that was about 9 years ago, and I actually put up my own security cameras and got a lot of pictures of the previous airport manager making goofy faces into the camera.
Well, I guess we're still going further on this same. So we've been out there since we've been out there in 70 years or so. And prior to 10 years ago, there was nothing.
Mr. Chairman, you asking how long they had waste oil collection out there?
This is 9 years.
They've had it since I moved there in 2000.
Okay, so 17 years.
Well,
It wasn't
I expect it's
controlled or-
been there even before that. Because I
Yeah.
believe that's kind of a service that most airports provided.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, which is why you found a lot of raised eyebrows when we thought we should shut it down.
And I can tell it's transitioning. Most airports are getting out of that service business
No.
because of the liability.
Go ahead.
No, I think that my question was answered. It's been going on for quite a years. I was curious just how, if it's only been since the last first tank or whatever the case may be, what happened? What did we use previously? And then what's the obligation that we continue, you know? or the need itself?
I saw Alan in the post office the other day. I could call Alan and see if he recalls, but I don't have that information. As far as I know, there are no records I've ever seen revolving collecting waste oil out there. It's always been a county program. In fact, it was the county who called me out there when I was code enforcement to deal with the dumping situation. So the county always maintained the records and did everything. So I don't know.
So I guess the next question is, if we don't do it, what's the alternative? Is they have that Saturday once a month or something?
There is a Saturday once a month where you can go up to the dump and treat it through household hazardous waste.
I presume one can also leave it in gallon jugs by their recycle?
I'm not going to commit to that. I believe that's a motor oil program. It is a motor, but
What can I say?
Oh, we're not going to put aircraft fuel, it's like,
I defy them to tell the difference.
yeah, exactly.
you just see one of the Mustangs putting their oil in 1-gallon jugs and lining them down the street.
They're only allowed, I think, 3 gallons a week.
Yeah.
So what's the feeling of the commission?
Well,
I don't have an.
okay, I'll express my feeling is that I believe it would be appropriate for the FBO that has a contract here to be FBO to take the thing over. And whether that means that the airport director should negotiate with them or just persuade them that it's in their best interest to step up to the plate and take it on, which is what I think. I don't think that then if they want to charge a small fee, waive it for their own customers, however they want to do it, as long as it's reasonable. That would be my opinion. But I think basically or whatever they call themselves, Jet Center, should take it over. That's my opinion.
I can tell you, Mike, years ago, I'm talking probably late 60s, there was a mess out there. Guys were leaving oil all over the airport, and that's how it got picked up as it is today. A lot of pilots complain about it, and they put that container out there where you can dump the oil into it. I think the FBO should pay for it. If we don't, it's going to be a mess. These guys will be dumping it on the airport. I don't care. That's what was the way. That's the way it was before.
It seems to me that probably just recently they started testing the oil for contamination, and that's what brought up the whole issue. They probably never did it before. Probably didn't worry about it.
No.
I don't know.
Just as a kind of a clarification, so as an alternative, if we don't do anything, then people would be more inclined to, and correct me if I'm wrong, to do whatever they felt necessary to dispose of their oil. That could be problematic, not only for us, but for the city as well. If we came up with maybe an alternative, maybe I think it was suggested the last time, possibly looking at tenants and going into a system by which the rental rates or lease rates would be increased to cover some of that cost. But we still come back to what you were saying earlier, the last few months. If no one's there to take it, how do we dispose of it? Obviously, 1-gallon containers at your curb won't do it. Possibly asking, the city, the county landfill, the once a month service, to see if they would want to, entertain a particular service.
That's the same organization that was providing the service that
Okay,
let it
I
all
see. Okay.
go. That is an option, and we can go down that road until such time as the last person, there's one, willing to collect the oil, decides to stop collecting that oil. When that happens, we will have a huge expense hauling that to Kettleman City, to the hazmat landfill, and we will be paying rent on that barrel forever.
Ever, yeah.
And that's when that's when we'll know that we can't do it anymore. So we could, if the fee was charged to a rent increase, whatever, to cover the cost of the program, which is about $15,000 a year, then we can do it. We'll put the tank inside our building. We will handle the collection to make sure it's not contaminated. So we wind up with a tank, and we'll have it dumped every 2 weeks. And we'll do all the paperwork with the EPA and everything else. But at the end of that program, know that the airport will have that expense. Because at some point, they will stop collecting that oil, and we will have to treat it as hazardous materials.
Yep.
And the only way to treat that is you put it in a stainless steel drum, it goes to Kettleman City, and you pay rent on it forever.
The rest of your.
If I may ask you a question, is the stuff that they collect up on once a month up at the landfill, that all goes in a barrel?
Yes, it goes in multiple barrels, and then it's hauled to another facility where they actually identify what it is, and then they sort it. And if it can be dismantled chemically down to its components and recycled, that happens. But some of that winds up going other places. They don't do that there. That operation is just a packing operation.
They just collect it there.
They do identify it down to a part, because you don't want to put acids and bases in the same barrel. So they identify it down to that level, they separate it out, they pack it, and then it's hauled off to their facility where they unpack it, they identify it, they break it down and recycle it.
Mike, just as another kind of a question of sorts regarding the amount of increase, do you think it's possible that the amount that would be charged to pay that $15,000 or whatever it is a year, do you think that's workable within the current, tenant situation that you have?
Do I think it's? Do I think the airport can afford it without increasing any fees?
We
We can,
Okay.
but when I took this place over, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was, the airport was in severe financial straits. Fred and Dean remember, we used to spend, and Gordon and Robbie, we used to spend meeting after meeting after meeting going through the budget trying to cut a paperclip so that we could build up enough money to pay for all the things we've done. And we were successful. We did that. And through very prudent, fiscal, responsible spending, and through renegotiating current leases and new leases that were negotiated, we've greatly improved the financial picture of the airport. I would not want to go back down the other road where we're offering a service and not charging for it, because that will cut into the financial health of the airport. So if we're going to take on the service, it's a new service that the airport's offering. I mean, it doesn't seem that way because the county's been providing that service for years. But this is a new service the airport is offering the tenant. My recommendation would be to charge an appropriate amount to cover that new service.
I have a question. The older commercial operators out there have to take care of their own waste oil now, I assume, right? The FBO
California law has always been that if you are a commercial operator that produce oil, you have to have a contract with an
Right.
oil recycler and maintain records of that. So I don't know what's going on because I never got involved and inspected or did any of that in my code enforcement function. But I do know that is what California law is.
But what I'm getting at is I think that other than the commercial operators out there, the tenants that actually dump oil probably isn't that much of oil at all. Probably. So it would be unfair to raise everybody's rents to do that. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, we were pumping that thing out every two weeks.
You're pumping it every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, that's because commercial users are now dumping oil in that thing. They must be.
I'd have to agree with Fred in the sense that I can't believe that there are that many tenants,
Yeah.
individual tenants that own an airplane that is changing their own oil and then dumping it in that facility that much. I mean, it must have included some of the FBOs too.
I don't know.
I agree. It's mind-boggling to think that every 2 weeks we 200 gallon
Yeah,
tank.
that's not
you know?
for
I
tenants.
mean, that sounds like a whole lot more. If I add up all the
Yeah.
airplanes, I don't think I could. They'd be changing their oil weekly.
So the expense.
I just have the records to prove we would dump that thing every 2 weeks.
Well,
And when we did it, there was a problem.
And like I say, it's got to be FBOs and potentially, I think we discussed it earlier, the general public coming in and just dumping stuff, and which is maybe where some of the
Yeah, I don't
tenants
know.
come from. Yeah, I
Would it
understand.
behoove us to do a survey of the tenants to see how many people would be interested in a service? Because if the interest is low, then then maybe we don't need to worry about it.
Whatever you folks want us to do,
Well, the FBO could set up a service and charge people that dump oil.
they can.
That's a good approach.
Yeah, well,
Seems like a good way to me to recover some of my costs on the oil program I'm required by law to have.
What program are you required by law to have?
If I am an FBO, I'm
Oh,
required by law to have an
Oh.
oil
You're
recycling
speaking-
program.
When you say you're speaking as an
Yes.
FBO. Okay.
So if I am required to do that and I'm paying money, if I can charge somebody to help defer that cost,
That makes
seems like a pretty good business
win-win
decision to me.
for them.
That would work.
yeah, but their obligation is
don't.
only the volume they're taking in.
Their obligation is only their oil, that is correct.
Well,
So to help them with the cost, you're not helping them with the cost,
Look-
you're sharing the facility that's using it.
Wait a minute, let me ask you a question. Look, people that sell oil in town, motor oil, aren't they are they required to provide or take used oil? Because a lot of them do.
I think they
And
are.
I thought they were required.
I think state law did change recently to require them to accept it.
I don't know where, Steve's not here, so we can't ask him, but I had the impression that there was part of the deal was they had to take back oil because
Yeah, I
they
think
sold
it's
oil.
similar to the paint law where paint shops have to
But I
take or
don't
use
think
paint
they
back.
So-
can take aircraft oil.
Well, wait, so what I'm trying to say is, the FBOs sell oil, at least the one that's got the contract. You can go in and buy a quart of oil from them. And aren't they required to take recycled oil?
I would have to look it up, but
I think it'd be worth looking up. I mean, why would they be different than the rest of them? Or, I'm just saying.
So are you saying that the oil for your airplane is purchased from the FBO?
It can be. I mean, you can go into Gavilan and ask for a quart of oil for your airplane, and then they stock it. They'll, at least in the past, they've sold it. In fact, as an FBO, I think they're required to sell it. So, yeah, I mean, so yes, they sell oil. So aren't they in the same boat as the,
I will research the law.
we can put it off for another month?
You know, it seems to me, I think you mentioned there's a lot of variables here that we're not even knowing about, or statistics that we're not sure of. So how many people are involved in this?
Well, yeah, it would be nice, maybe,
Well, as I look out at the crowd,
yeah. It's the high interest level.
and them all holding their signs saying, we want oil recycling, I would judge that as pretty low interest.
Well.
In your, I guess, estimate or guess, are the airplane owners changing their own oil, or is the FBO doing a good portion of it?
I think some airplane owners change their own oil, but I don't think most. I think the FBOs do a good portion of it, and I think, at least in the past, when I was sitting there watching, there are some mobile FBOs that did oil changes too out of the trunks of their car.
So
I've seen that happen.
what I'm kind of getting at is that if 50% is a split, so we charge the tenants, so you're going to charge the 50% of the tenants, or you're going to charge, in general, just charge everybody that extra $10 a month? How are you going to split it?
He's not going to do that unless he starts collecting the oil.
So let me do this.
No, but I'm
Let me
saying if
propose
he's buying
a
the oil,
program,
if he's buying the oil, he's
a
obligated,
fee.
maybe.
And everything for the next meeting.
Who are you talking about?
No, what I'm saying is that you're saying, I guess, guesstimating that 50% of the people have their oil changed by the FBO.
Okay.
So it'd be kind of hard to charge everybody increase in rent when 50% of them aren't going to the FBO. I mean, are doing it themselves.
You might get some
the
public
FBO.
input about
So
that.
what you're doing is getting back to a survey. Would you require the services of oil recycling? If so, mark yes. If not, and then they wouldn't be charged. So it would have to be every tenant responding to that.
I guess the other thing I was thinking that if the FBO is required, if you purchase the oil from him, he's required to take back the old oil. So that's the alternative to me. Would the alternative to the 50% that's changing their own oil? Since you don't know location and where to dump that oil, your obligation then would be to buy it from the FBO, and you solved your problem.
No, well, I don't think this thing that he's going to research, where the auto stores, for example, have to take recycled oil in. They don't have to identify it as oil they sold. I mean, how can they? Oil looks like oil. You can't say whether it came from this FBO or you bought it
But
Yeah, but if
in
you
Monterey.
purchase-
I
if
don't
you
get, what's
purchase-
your point?
But my point is that to solve the problem of the person changing the old oil, he's got to dispose of it somehow. As far as I understand, I would assume that his obligation is not the city's obligation to provide anything. If the tenant has to find a place to dispose of the oil. If one of the alternatives is take it back to where you bought it after it's used, and they have to dispose of it, that's fine. If you're doing it yourself, then it's your problem to find a solution. And they do have a solution, just turn around and buy it from the FBO.
Buying it from the FBO doesn't, I don't get that. There's no connection between who you buy it from and who you give it back to.
If the person who sells it are obligated to receive it after.
No, I think they're obligated to take recyclable
Yeah, but
oil.
they're
It's
told-
not that they have to just take oil that they sold.
correct.
I don't believe that it's restricted to just the
Yeah,
oil
well-
they sell.
Okay, but now we're getting back to, I believe.
Yeah, well, that's what he said. He'll research what the
Yeah, that's
the
what I'm
rules are.
saying. We got too many variables here that
So-
we don't even know the answer.
Well,
Mike, just a quick question, and hopefully, address the question of tenants. The lease agreement that is signed by the current tenants, does it say anything about the disposable oil?
The municipal code does.
Okay, so that
And what the
refers
lease
to-
agreement says is you're going to follow the municipal code.
Okay, okay.
What's the municipal code say?
You're going to dispose of it properly. So there are severe restrictions on working on your own plane.
Changing oil's allowed.
It is.
Thank you.
But there are severe restrictions on working on your own plane. Or anybody else working on your plane in a T hangar. Municipal code says a lot. The airport section is one of the biggest sections of the book.
So we're not going to solve this tonight.
We're not.
Do you have enough information to come back next meeting?
I think I see
No
what you
question.
want, and I actually look it up a little more information right now, and I'm not sure they're required. But we'll see. I'll research it.
This may go on till December.
Mr. Chairman, and
If I stall long enough, all the airports won't be doing it anymore, and Dean can't use that argument.
I'd like to go back to the root cause of this whole problem. Like I said, they had a place to dispose oil since 2007 out there. And it seemed like lead in the oil has become the big issue all of a sudden. Why don't we
No.
focus on solving that problem?
No.
No,
That's an ancillary problem.
yes.
The lead in the oil has reduced the collection options down to one company. The problem is there's been staff changes at the county of San Benito, and the people that handled the program are no longer there. So the program wasn't being handled. They let the EPA number for the tank expire, and the tank could not get emptied legally for months, which caused it to overflow and spill and cause a problem. And it took days and days of work to get that all straightened out, to get that tank emptied. And at that point, I told the county to come get their tank. Because if they weren't going to maintain it and do what they were supposed to do, it wasn't our responsibility to do that. So the problem, that is the problem. The county's program fell apart. The lead in the gas is an ancillary problem that we can't do anything about. It's just the 5 oil recycling collection companies, 4 of them have decided that they're not going to accept oil in their, and I'm wondering if it has something to do with the Avgas lawsuit. I'm wondering.
What's that?
Remember the environmental group that sued all the FBOs that were selling leaded Avgas?
Guess I missed that one.
Yeah, that was about 3 years ago. And I'm wondering if something happened, but that's just pure speculation. But
What's the wish of the commission? To continue?
Continue it and get a little more information.
Continue
But
next
two,
meeting.
two things. One, about whatever the rules say. And secondly, if there's a way to get Gavilan to, I think they should be pressed into service here, personally. Because that's, they got the contract. So this is something that they should be intimately involved with, I think. That's just my opinion. I don't know if anybody else thinks that way.
I do. With you on that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue.
Yeah.
Second.
A motion second, all in favor?
Who
Opposed?
said what? Yeah, I'm in favor. Who?
She made the motion, Robbie second.
Okay, thank you.
To
Continue.
continue next meeting. Table this issue until.
Okay, old business, water board underground fuel tank.
so the final repairs to our fuel tanks were completed yesterday. We had an inspection today. Unfortunately, I never got word if it passed or not. It should have passed. Everything was fine yesterday afternoon when I was out there. So we have the new fuel spill monitoring computer in place that shuts everything down. So all our violations should be corrected. Heidi will be sending off a letter to get a clean bill of health from them as soon as they get the approval for the inspection from the county, and then everything will be all good.
So what did it cost us? It was estimated at $24,000.
Yeah, it was $24,000 or $26,000, I think.
That was the estimate. Do you
Yeah, that's
know?
what it was. There were no surprises.
Okay.
I made that clear to them when they showed up that I didn't like
That's
surprises.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Item 8D, Carol Ford activities.
Unfortunately, due to my illness, I wasn't able to get in touch with Carol either before the meeting to get you a report. So I'd ask that be continued also.
All right.
Next meeting?
Okay, new business, no new business. Items for next agenda.
All of them?
I guess really,
So,
yeah.
Looks-
yes,
Yeah, I guess
yeah, all of them.
HC, we have to,
All the above.
So Tony just has to change the date on the agenda.
Yep.
Got it.
All right. The next meeting is June the 28th.
That is a true and correct date.
And that meeting's going to be where?
Here.
Just
You're about to
thought I'd
get
ask.
gavelled. I see him reaching for it.
Out of order. Wait a minute, we're talking about the 28th, that is?
I don't think we need to worry about the Saddle Horse Show parade
Oh, that's
anymore.
right. I
So
was just going to say, that's the parade
What-
show, so what we're going to do?
what happened
There is
to
no
it?
show.
there is no show.
What happened to it?
What?
That thing that used to bump us?
Yeah, he got dismantled.
And how did that happen, if I may ask?
The show?
I was not involved.
Yeah,
The Chamber of Commerce decided that they weren't being compensated for.
and they were putting it on?
They're putting on behalf of the Saddle Horse Association,
Oh,
and they weren't being compensated, and it takes a lot of man hours.
okay. Yeah,
It's probably
right.
not, the compensation is probably not the right word, it's the man hours
Yeah,
needed.
Anyway, okay, so they dropped it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, entertain a motion to adjourn?
Aye.
A motion?
What's that?
Second.
A
Wait a minute,
motion.
who moved and who seconded?
Robbie and Jose.
Ronnie and Jose, okay, Robbie and Jose.
Robbie and Jose. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so moved.
Bye, 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 bye.